Hello, everyone. Welcome into the WST Postgame reaction. My name is Connor Hrabchak. Today, I'm joined by Michael Remis. And as you can see, we're here at Canada Life Center breaking down the Jets' 6-3 loss to the Boston Bruins. It's their third straight loss, and Remis and I are going to get into their record since the start of November, the last 11 games. It's not pretty. And what's going on with the Winnipeg Jets right now is that they're losing a lot of games, and tonight was no different. A 6-3 defeat to the Boston Bruins. Remis, what's kind of your initial takeaway / reaction to this one as the Jets lose yet another game on this homestand?
Yeah, we talked about heading into the game. This was their opportunity for a win, going up against the Boston backup goalie and needing a win to keep pace in the standings. So many teams fighting for those final two wildcard spots. They mixed up the lines a little differently than last game this time, and the Jets came out scoring first, and you thought, okay, this is their night, but ultimately turned out not to be. And David Pastrnak certainly had something to say about that.
Yeah, he had an incredible game for the Boston Bruins. The Bruins also got a big boost. Charlie McAvoy was out for about a month after breaking his jaw. He was back in the lineup tonight, and he was very noticeable for the Bruins as well. So a team that was motivated, getting one of their leaders back in Charlie McAvoy, and Pastrnak, we know how good he is. He was awesome in this game as well. But the game started off with a fight between Luke Schenn and Mark Kastelik right off the opening faceoff. Went back and looked, and those two fought when Schenn was in Nashville in 2024. Otherwise, no real history there. I was trying to figure out why those two wanted to fight right off the bat, other than the obvious, just setting the tone of a hockey game. But they did have one fight previously back in October of 2024. But other than that, nothing to really write home about, like you said, Remis. But it was Morgan Barron who opened the scoring for the Winnipeg Jets. A really nice play and a big goal for Barron, who had yet to score since returning from injury. That's his fourth of the season. And I thought he was one of the better Jets in this game, Remis. Barron getting the Jets going. And their record, I haven't looked at it recently, but when scoring first, their numbers, their record are a lot better than when they obviously get scored on first. And this was a case where they got off to a good start, they got the opening goal, and Morgan Barron got a good feeling in this building.
And that's what you need, secondary scoring. We've talked so much about needing someone else other than the top line to chip in, and a bit of a greasy one, shot from the point on net. Barron crashes and puts it in, and he got off to such a strong start, got injured, and first goal since returning. It's just another player in the bottom third of the lineup, bottom nine forwards, who has been struggling lately. And another one of those guys who got moved up to the top, Iafallo, he scored as well, breaking his slump. But it just seemed like everyone's slumping. It felt like at times Gus Nyquist was going to get his first of the year.
Yeah.
He did not. But the Jets did start off 1-0, and you thought they would put themselves in an advantageous position, starting with the lead.
You thought that, and then the Winnipeg Jets quickly, and by quickly I mean in the span of 2 minutes and 44 seconds, we're down 3-1. Two offensive zone penalties that we spoke to Scott Arniel after the game. He really did not like those penalties. How could you? I mean, offensive zone below Boston's goal line, almost stick infractions. Those are tough penalties to take for the Winnipeg Jets. They took two of them. Boston scored on both of their power play opportunities. That's now 7 straight games with a power play goal against the Winnipeg Jets. So the penalty kill is really struggling right now. And then moments later, after Boston made it 2-1, Sean Crowley gets behind Logan Stanley, goes to the backhand and beats Eric Comrie on the breakaway. And the Jets find themselves down 3-1, Remis, in the span of 2:44 after, you got a good feeling. You got the secondary scoring. Morgan Barron, his first goal since returning from injury. And just like that, it was silent in this building as the Jets were down 2.
Yeah, those penalties that the Jets took, those are ones that coaches hate. Gus Nyquist behind the net trips a guy, and Morgan Barron, he's forechecking a guy who has the puck, and he wraps his arms around him and bear hugs him, and does a full takedown.
Nice.
I mean, they're gonna call that, and the penalty kill got moving around. They're passing it quickly. You have a failed clearing attempt, keep it in, and David Pastrnak, he snipes, and the other one is Casey Middlestead. They get Eric Comrie moving, goes out to play a puck, quickly goes back to the middle, and he's got a wide open net.
Yeah.
And again, Corrali in behind the D. Maybe Connor Hellebuyck stops one of those, but the defense has to take some ownership of their play here.
For sure.
Scott Arniel not happy after the game at the quality of chances they allowed. I think we were kind of surprised. We felt like, this is kind of they're playing similar-ish to the way they played against Dallas. But those chances right there in the span of under 3 minutes, some big mistakes there. Special teams how many straight games is that with a power
7.
play goal? 7
7.
straight games. So penalty kill not helping.
No.
It's just did not. That was, thought they were playing well until they weren't, and the game took a very quick turn.
Yeah, and you mentioned it there, but that's just a coach's nightmare. You take 2 offensive zone penalties, both of which result in power play goals against. Your penalty kills really struggling. That doesn't help you out. And you mentioned the Dallas game. I said to you in the middle of the third period that we might just be able to replay Tuesday's postgame show because the Jets went down early. It was 3-0 against Dallas, 3-1 in this game. Both teams traded goals back and forth, and it ended up being 4-3 late in the third period where, the Jets, maybe you like some of their 5-on-5 game, maybe you don't like some. They're getting burned on special teams, and they're losing 4-3 to a team that's currently in a playoff spot. It felt very similar to me, at least, to the Dallas game on Tuesday, but the dagger was Elias Lindholm making it 5-3 late, and that's how this result ended up different than the game on Tuesday. I do want to give a shout out just before we move on to some of the numbers here. Alex Iafallo, that was a pretty sweet goal, Remis. You take Velarde off the top line, and a lot of people are questioning, okay, is that the right move? These 2 games with Alex Iafallo on the top line, I think he specifically has brought it. And the forechecking, obviously he scores a goal in tonight's game. I thought he's played really, really well when being on that top line and has filled in for Velarde, who's, playing cleanup duty on other lines, trying to get other guys going right now. But Iafallo, nice goal tonight. I thought he's played well.
Yeah, I thought he's been watching a lot of Kyle Connor there on the top line, cutting from the wing to the net, and you want to see him do that. And just, I don't know if there's a threat of Scheifele there in the slot. Korpisalo thought it was just a plain great play, going roof from in tight, and they needed someone to step in other than, Scheifele and Connor have been doing all the scoring. Alex Iafallo did that, and, they did change the lines up a bit tonight. Then before Gus Nyquist coming in for Tanner Pearson. And they put Perfetti with Nemesnikov, who played with all of last year, and Gabe Velarde. And I thought, having a guy like Velarde with Perfetti on the same line, try to get Perfetti going, as he's really struggled here since coming back from injury himself as well. So they did connect on the power play goal, not a 5-on-5 goal. But Iafallo, he's done a nice job here on the top line with Scheifele and Connor.
He really has. And another one of the line changes that I was saying to you during the game, Remis, that I liked was Cole Koepke moving next to Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter on kind of that third line. With them on the ice tonight for about 7.5 5-on-5 minutes. The shots on goal were 5-2 for the Jets. Scoring chances 8-2. High danger chances 4-1 with the trio of Niederreiter, Lowry, and Koepke on that line. And, Mason Appleton was a guy who was much maligned here in Winnipeg, at least, in last year's playoff run. But one thing he did bring was great speed and forechecking ability, and that's something I think that Cole Koepke can bring to that line as well. So I'd be intrigued to see another look at that line on Saturday. What did you think of Cole Koepke getting more responsibility, and what was a revenge game for him going up against his former team, the Boston Bruins?
Yeah, it's funny. When I heard Nyquist was going in, my initial thought was, he'll just go in for Koepke because they were rotating in the morning skate earlier. But then when you thought about it, I was like, this kind of makes sense. Nyquist, Pearson, a bit similar. Koepke, they need speed in the lineup, and
for sure,
we had that Appleton comparison. They're still looking for that replacement, or maybe they found it now to have with Lowry and Niederreiter, that line that was so dominant for so many years. Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton, or Lowry, Kopp, Appleton, or Lowry, Kopp, Tanev, whoever. They seem to make it work with Adam Lowry in the middle. That line, the shot attempts were very strong in their favor for. That's definitely a positive here going forward, even with the loss, if they continue to stick with that trio.
Yeah, I think some of the other positives for me, just before we move on to some of the negatives, because I feel like there's a lot more of those given how the Winnipeg Jets have played recently. Dylan Samberg put up some of the craziest, video game type analytics tonight with him on the ice at 5-on-5. The shot attempts with Samberg on the ice tonight were 32-8 for the Jets. The shots on goal 12-6. They scored a goal with Samberg on the ice. Scoring chances 20-3. In the Jets' favor with Samberg on the ice, high danger chances 10-1. So him and Neil Pionk on that second pairing played a fantastic game. And there had been some questions about Dylan Samberg and how he's playing because this whole defense core has really been under siege these past number of weeks, giving up a lot of grade A's. But the second pairing when they were on the ice tonight, I thought they were fantastic. I already mentioned Alex Iafallo. It was also nice to see the power play get on the board. I wrote down this stat here. Since November 1st, they're 7 for 48 coming into tonight's game, 14.6%. That was 5th worst in the NHL since the start of November. So nice to see the power play get on the board with a quick goal. Cole Perfetti, net drive. Gabe Vilardi whacks home the rebound. And the 5-on-5 play, they looked great until they didn't. There were a lot of breakdowns, but in the general flow of play, I did think the Jets, controlled some of it, and they got to their forecheck. That Scardinale said after the game that he liked and all of those things. So what are some of the positives maybe that you're taking away from this game, Remis?
Yeah, I mean, he scored first for sure. Scored first, definitely won, and
didn't go down 3-0.
They did
Tuesday.
They did score on the power play for sure. I thought, look, they had chances. They got down. They kept playing their game. Maybe the third period they scored one of those early, but they really couldn't put one past Korpisalo. So.
Yeah.
I think they controlled play. You look at the deserve to win-o-meter. On Money Puck, they you don't get 2 points for winning on there. But I thought at times they controlled the play and looked good. But as we talked for the whole year, for most of the season, consistency, not just from game to game, but within a game. As we said, you make a couple mistakes and it's in the back of the net. And Scott O'Neill mentioned there's stretches where they're playing well. They're controlling play, but it just wasn't long enough.
Yeah, and look, there have been so many things that have led to the Winnipeg Jets being one of, if not the worst team in the NHL since the start of November, but one of those things has been special teams, and that really hasn't helped them. I brought up the power play stat earlier, 5th worst over that time. The penalty kill over that time, 70%. That's 31st since November 1st is the penalty kill league-wide. What do you think's going wrong? Obviously, not having Connor Hellebuyck, I think, is where you have to start, because that's, he's your best penalty killer, has to be your goaltender, obviously. But there were the goals on the power play tonight, Remis, for Boston, Eric Comrie didn't really have a chance on. Like, Pastrnak threw a screen. He's one of the best shooters in the NHL. And then Casey Middlestat gets a cross-crease one-timer that Comrie's out of position for. But I don't even know if Connor Hellebuyck's saving that one. What are you kind of seeing with the penalty kill? And the special teams is kind of uncharacteristic, un-Jets-like from what we saw last year. They were great on the power play, of course. And this year, both units seem to be burning them game in and game out.
When Boston had the puck, and I think you saw this with Dallas on Tuesday, these guys are so good at, seeing elite players like Pastrnak, like Rantanen or Robertson. That Dallas power play was elite. But
for sure,
when they moved the puck, they were just able to get the Jets out of position. And I think, the quick movement was something that they weren't able to handle. And puck squirted out, and Comrie made a move, and it got to Middlestat. So you saw a great shot there from Pastrnak, but I think it was the movement that set that up, and they had chances, to clear before. It didn't work out, and Boston capitalized.
Yeah, and what did you think of Eric Comrie? Because I feel like that's a loaded question in this game. In the last 2 games, like the stat line has been ugly, like plain and simple. The Dallas game, 4 goals against on 19 shots. Tonight, it didn't look great either. I think it was 18 saves on 23 shots against. So obviously he's not going to be Connor Hellebuyck. I think it comes with that, and we're used to elite, best goalie of this generation level goaltending. But these last 2 games, Remis, it's been a tough go for Eric Comrie. And I know Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press tweeted out in the 3rd period, do the Winnipeg Jets consider starting Dom DiVincentis on Saturday if Connor Hellebuyck's not ready to go? Where are you kind of at with the Eric Comrie conversation here off of these back-to-back tough games for him?
Yeah, Money Puck has his goals saved above expected tonight as minus 2.26. And I think it was the 4th one, was probably the one that you like to have back. Pastrnak comes in, he puts the rebound right in the slot.
Can't corral it.
And then, it gets back to Lindholm, who just wires a shot from the point. That was probably the one you'd like to have back. He made a good save. Corrali got him on that first breakaway, but there was a play where I think Morrissey and Stan got on the same side and thought the puck was getting out. It didn't. Came back to Corrali all alone in front, and Comrie, stood him, saved the Jets D on that one. It's tough, Connor. We're used to seeing such great goaltending from Connor Hellebuyck, but you're putting in a guy who's never been a starter in the NHL. He's playing a lot of games. I think he's in a tough spot. I don't think they need to, lock down defensively and try to help him out. The 2 power plays early didn't help him. Can it be better? Yes,
Yeah.
but I think he can be better. But I also think they need to help him out more in front.
I'm with you on that. And look, Connor Hellebuyck's obviously going to help. He won the Hart last year. When he comes back, there are going to be these 1-goal games in the third that the Jets are maybe trailing. Maybe it's tied with him, and you get those loser points at least that so many teams around the NHL are getting.
And you look at this last stretch where they've been not winning a lot of games, and you do wonder how many would they win. It doesn't fix the issues in defensive play or depth scoring, but it would give you a bump in the standings.
It definitely magnifies those issues. You notice the defensive breakdowns more because Connor Hellebuyck's not just making a routine, big and boring-esque save. And you brought up, all the losing that they've done recently. 6-12-1 since November 1st. That's tied for the worst record in the NHL since the start of November. If you go to November 2nd, because they won a game on November 1st, they're an NHL worst 5-12-1 since November 1st and 2-8-1 in their last 11 games played. So things are not going well for the Winnipeg Jets right now, and we'll see if they can bounce back Saturday, whether it's Dom DiVincentis, Eric Comrie, or maybe even Connor Hellebuyck returns earlier than we expected. Whoever's in net, whoever's playing in that game, Nyquist, Pearson up front, whoever's on the third pair, they're going to have to step up and get a big win right here in this building because they're 14-15-1 on the season now and 5 points out of the basement of the entire NHL, at least as we start this recording. So dire times, dire moments for the Winnipeg Jets right now as they drop this one 6-3 to the Boston Bruins. Before we go, Remis, we got to do our 2 segments, hardest working Jet and standout stat of the game. What do you have for your hardest working Jet? Who stood out to you?
Yeah, I think Alex Iafallo on the top line. We talked about how he's fit in. You need that big body with those guys, and credit to him on his goal. Took it down the boards, took it to the net, and went up high on Korpisalo for a goal. So we talked about, we liked his game. I will give my hard hat to number 9, AI, Alex Iafallo.
Love it. That's a great pick. He was definitely on my list. I'm going to go with Morgan Barron. I thought he really drove that line tonight. He was playing with Jonathan Toews on the fourth line, as we know, but Barron was kind of moved to the wing in this game. Toews was playing more center than he had on Tuesday for sure, but I thought Morgan Barron, he had the goal, which was a great effort goal, and maybe that's swaying this decision for me, but I thought all night long he was generating, he was mucking it up in the corners, he was back checking really hard, and he's got that speed and that size that just pops off the page when you're watching this Winnipeg Jets team because they do struggle with that. So when Morgan Barron is rumbling through the neutral zone and flying and forechecking and hitting guys and scoring goals, he looks like a great quality bottom 6 player, and he definitely did on this night, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Morgan Barron. He gets my hard hat for the hardest working Jet in this one. What's your standout stat from tonight's game?
I think
what stood out to you?
I think it just listed them off. One of them has to be the team's record since, was it November 2nd?
Yes, 5-12-1.
Yeah,
the worst
in the NHL. I think, raise your eyebrows at where this team is at since Connor Hellebuyck's been injured. I believe that spans that time, and
it does.
They talked about needing some urgency to try to get back into this playoff race and try to salvage something. And we're hearing reports he's going to be coming back, but it just shows how important he is to this team. I think special teams, something that was so good for the Winnipeg Jets last year, just hasn't been the case. 7 straight games allowing a power play goal. I mean, it's unfortunate that all these standout stats, Connor, not positive. I mean, Morgan Barron, it was his goal drought. Alex Iafallo first. Just seems like everyone's going through it, and overall, I mean, that's so many reasons why this team is where they are in the standings.
Absolutely. My standout stat is going to be in relation to the special teams. I mentioned them both on this show already, but since November 1st, the Jets have the 5th worst power play in the NHL, coming into tonight's game 7 for 48, 14.6%, and the 2nd worst penalty kill at 70% since the start of November. So this team, we've talked recently about how everyone's next goal in the bottom 9 is going to be a slump breaker, and Morgan Barron got it tonight. Who will get it on Saturday? You've liked pieces of their 5-on-5 game, but it's very un-Jets-like to watch them lose the special teams battle drastically in back-to-back nights and that be their downfall. And, you look at last year's team, they had great goaltending, great special teams, and then very, very good 5-on-5. They maybe weren't elite at 5-on-5, but they were very, very good. And then the goaltending and the special teams made up for it. This year, they've pieced together 5-on-5 moments as of late, but then the goaltending and the special teams are just letting them down. And obviously, they don't have Connor Hellebuck, so that's the biggest reason for the goaltending. But the power play and the penalty kill need to get going. They got a power play goal on this night, but they can't be losing. The goal differential on special teams nightly can't be -1, -2, or else the Jets, I don't even think, have the firepower to make up for that in their lineup this season, at least with the loss of Nikolai Ehlers. So lots to watch for going forward as the Jets take on the Washington Capitals on Saturday. Anything else, Remis, as this buzzer keeps going off behind us here? Maybe kicking us out.
What are they, lowering the scoreboard?
They're lowering the scoreboard. They're done.
Okay,
They're done.
so-
Season's over, guys. No kidding.
No, we'll see. They're going to practice on Friday, and we'll see how they look Saturday for Nino Niederreiter's 1,000th game.
Yes.
I think they're going to be fired up. Could be Ovechkin's last visit to Canada Life Center. We should mention a ton of Bruins jerseys here, as always, for Original 16, but Morgan Geekie, Manitoban, playing here. Tried to give him the empty netter, Pasta did at the end, but eventually he said, you know what, I just got to take this one. I'm sorry. So we'll see how they bounce back.
We will.
They piece together parts of a game. Scott O'Neill called it a step back from Tuesday, and it doesn't get easier with Washington, one of the top teams in the league, here on Saturday.
Yeah, and we won't have a post game for you on Saturday because Liz Hood and I will be going live Sunday morning at 9 a.m. to break that one down. The Jets taking on the Capitals right here at Canada Life Center, looking to break this 3-game losing streak, looking to get on the right foot and really get out of this 2-8-1 slump in their last 11 games here. Who will be the starting goaltender? Stay glued to our socials. And of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily tomorrow, Friday at 1 o'clock. Huston Remo will have you covered with all the Winnipeg Jets news from practice and heading into that game on Saturday night here at Canada Life Center. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button on the way out. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you Sunday morning, 9 a.m., WST Sunday Live. But first, check out Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily tomorrow at 1 o'clock.